Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. I want to discuss a little bit about a surah number 58. Some people translate it as the pleading woman, right? Surah number 58. But the reason why I want to discuss that, because a couple of brothers asked for a little bit more, and I was contacted by one of the asheries, right? Because, people know how to reach out to me on Telegram. So I asked him, we just having a regular conversation. Why are you ashery? Like, where does the ashery creed start at? He didn't know. He didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Who is the founders of the ashery creed? And this is what he said. The ashery creed is a part of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So it's from the Sunnah to be ashery. Now, so I want to explain why they try to use the term Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And we're going to break this down just a little bit, right? But he didn't know. And it reminded me of not just one group, but like these groups who claim in madhabs or minhaj. Like, even in my early days of Salafiyah, and certain people, I used to be like, why are you Salafi? Like, where did this minhaj start? And they would be like, man, this is just what you have to call yourself. It's the correct Aqidah, because they didn't even know what minhaj was. And they sound exactly like them. And like some of my travels, even here, where you have Hanafi, and I'm not labeling it, they label their self with this. A Hanafi, Tabliki Jamaat, Masjid. But they never formally study the Hanafi madhab. They just have a book or two. That one book, it's like a green book. The Hanafi, they use a lot. I can't even think of the name of it, but it got a lot of. We ain't gonna go into that. So when I really listened to them, in my head I was like, I know it's a lot of them like that, because I know some people, like I said, who just recently, within, it ain't even been a whole year, that left Salafiyah and went over to the Ashery now. And even with them, where does the Ashery creed come from? They didn't know. You know what I'm saying? To them, Ashery, just like how they feel like Salafiyah is a minhaj, they feel like being Ashery is a minhaj. It's a methodology that you use to practice Islam. So, alhamdulillah, a brother had tagged me in a video by Brother Naeem. A lot of y'all might not know Naeem, right? As a matter of fact, I'm going to say it now. In one of my videos, I speak about him, but I don't say his name. It was a sister. Sometimes sisters be having more than one wakil, and because I really knew her, but basically she wanted to marry. Well, Naeem was interested in her, so she had a particular wakil at the time, and they arranged for her and Naeem to talk. But because Naeem was a student and he made things clear about, he's a Zahid. You know what I'm saying? He practiced Zud. You know, he not gonna be stream. He kind of live like I do. You see what I'm saying? And you know, he made that clear and this and that. So you know, she was wanting this person that's gonna be taking vacations once a month, and so she kind of shunned him. And then when she talked to me, because she really didn't know, because the Salafis, man, the Salafis that hate everybody, they hate Naeem. Because Naeem know their reality. Naeem was over there in Yemen for a lot of years while some of the people who claim they was over there studying, but they were just in Yemen. And Naeem got a lot of proof. Like Naeem got real top-notch ijazas. You know what I'm saying? Like if Naeem was in an Islamic university, he definitely would have a master's, if not a PhD. You know what I'm saying? But like sometimes when you study with scholars, they do like books at a time, as opposed to the university where you might just get hit with a conglomerate of stuff, like, you know what I'm saying, in that field. But anyway, so I get to telling her who Naeem really is and what's really to him, because she's really hearing that Salafi rhetoric, where they hating on Naeem because Naeem Salafi. So then she get to paying attention to him and get to talking about other people. I mean, talking to other people that's Salafi, but they don't hate everybody, like that particular crowd that hate everybody. And wallahi, after a little bit of time, that sister called me on the phone and she was crying. I talked about it in the video. She was crying like loud, yelling, "I want to marry Naeem. You gotta help me. You gotta do something." And I kept it real with her. I wouldn't recommend you for Naeem. I'm not finna get into that. I'm not finna contact that brother. It's a whole lot about you that you need to change. You will be a hardship for that brother. You know what I'm saying? You get yourself together and do certain things, then possibly. But I wouldn't recommend you for that brother. But it was for brother Naeem. But anyway, he sent me a video, so it made me go grab one of my books where Naeem is going over the book. This was the second book that I studied in Aqidah after Aqidah at-Tawheed, and it's called Shar al-Aqidah al-Wasatiyah, right? The reason why I want to speak on this book, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, because one brother had asked me about, I had to delete the video, man, because the brothers, some brothers got to arguing in the video, where I'm talking about they was calling each other names and talking about what they'd do to each other. You know, they was close to each other. It got crazy, man. So I ended up deleting the whole video. Okay. I think by the time I deleted it, I think it was right at maybe 5 views exactly. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, they was tripping. But I was explaining, he asked me a question about, do I feel like the Salafis today that refute people, do I feel like they're rude, and what I consider Ibn Taymiyyah refuting people, what I consider Ibn Taymiyyah rude? Basically, I'm wording the question wrong because I'm trying to think of how he said it, but that's basically what he was asking me. Because the Salafis on that side, they present a particular argument like refutations is from the deen and it's from the past and Ibn Taymiyyah this and that. But, you know, I end up having to text him back and tell him they're not doing refutations. But I gave real detail in the video that I had to delete. But this is going to kill two birds with one stone. If you read Aqidah Wasatiyah, this is basically a refutation from Ibn Taymiyyah. He was asked a question about all these differences and all this stuff, and his answer to the question turned into a whole book, which is basically a refutation of some of these disbeliefs, right? Now, I went ahead and busted back out because I studied this, you know, on an academic level, and then I read it a couple of times, and then just to show, although it's like this, but it has, like I said, a lot of my books that I do and I study, it has the Arabic in it, and it has the English translation, right? So when you start to dig into like Akida Wasatiyah, it speaks about Al-Hasan, right? Al-Ashari. So it speak on him because this is the person where the Ashari Creed started from. He used to be a member of the Mu'tazila, right? So, and I'm breaking this down so like I'm able to kill everything with one stone. And like I said, he reminded me of the book. Naeem is going over this book with the students, right? For the ones who enter Naeem, you know, like I said, I seen when the Salafis hated on him. You know, I seen when he had to come to the night shift and start telling the truth about what went on in Yemen. You know, they was lying on him. Naeem, you know, like I said, he got access to strong scholars. You know, sometimes he do, like he had a scholar like on a Zoom and do a Q&A. So basically they was lying on Naeem. This video is very old. This video is probably about 2017, but basically Naeem got the scholar on the phone, on the telelink. And the scholar basically was breaking down that ain't what was said, that was going on. And then Naeem was reading some other statements from the scholars proving that they was lying. You know what I'm saying? They didn't like that. They didn't like that. They don't like when they come tell people the scholar said this, the scholars was refuting this one, and this, that, and the third, and then the person that they saying said this can get those scholars on the phone. Them Salafis don't like that. They used to people just taking whatever they say and running with it. So, you know, he was on a night shift, and I liked how he preserved his Arabic. When they asked him a question, he'd tell them his answer, then he'll retranslate it in Arabic. And then, like he said, for this video, for like scholars and stuff who don't understand any English, they can watch this video in case these people try to put out snippets and this and that. They will be able to watch the video and see exactly what was said. Because they like to take pieces of videos and copy and paste it and put sentences together that was never said. That used to be their thing, them Salafis that hate everybody. So this right here is a book that I recommend. It's called The Mountains of Knowledge. And it go through about, what's this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 short biographies of people from the past. Some people may be familiar, of course, with Ibn Taymiyyah, right? Ibn Taymiyyah is on here, but what was that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 short biographies of some heavy hitters. Right here, Abul Hasan, let me get that up close. Inshallah, that'll show. Abul Hasan al-Ashari, where the Ashari Creed started from. He's also in here because he was a heavy hitter. Now what I'm getting to is why they try to claim Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But you have to understand Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is basically the group of people that's on the Sunnah. I ain't gonna go into too much of that. So right here, they even put a special section for him. So right here, and I think I went through this book. I like to put a timeline on my stuff, man. I went through this book in like 2013, 2014, but from time to time I'll go back through and read it, just like with this one. I studied it. I started off studying this, you know what I'm saying, on an academic level with A teacher. He wasn't a scholar, like as in on a PhD level or above, but he was a master's degree and above. You know what I'm saying? So, and then after that, I went through it a couple of times by myself, going through it. So, they got a special section about him. You have to understand his biography and understand this is the part that they don't tell people. He actually left this. He actually left that belief system and came back to Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He ended up leaving that kalam like that and joining Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So because they able to attach his name to Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they claim the title of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He was Shafi'i in fiqh, but, and I'm going to show y'all why they have beliefs that don't match. Al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, he started off as a member of the Mu'tazila. Some people say Mu'tazila, whichever one floats your boat, right? The Mu'tazila was a group that they denied Allah's hearing, Allah's speech, all this stuff about Allah. Okay? So, in his early days, he also had that exact same belief. So, I want to follow me, because I sometimes I'm not as clear as I think I'm sounding. So, follow along with me. So, when they started to change the belief system, you have to understand, when a person has a belief and they figure out that they're wrong, like let's say I would have to go through and give y'all a timeline, like how long he was with the Mu'tazila, but like he was in it. He wasn't like a person who didn't know their literature. Like he was one of their, I ain't gonna say he was like the head of them, but he wasn't like a poop butt of the Mu'tazila. Okay? He wasn't a poop butt of the Mu'tazila. So, throughout time, they debate people. They attack people and try to pull them to the Mu'tazila Aqidah. So they would get refuted, as they call it, or they would lose debates. So sometimes when a person believes something for 10 years and then they find out that they're wrong, sometimes they don't completely leave that belief system. So they still have parts of that belief system, so they may add to it to make it sound right. For instance, if you started off believing for 10 years that Allah can't hear, right? But then you see debates being lost and refutations, and what the people who's winning starting to sound good to you, and you looking and you hearing the dalil, and you like, okay, we can't deny that. You can no longer deny that Allah can hear. So I'm going to accept that Allah can hear, but I'm going to add on, okay, I agree with y'all that Allah can hear, but Allah doesn't have ears. You see what I'm saying? So I'm still a little more right than y'all, because this is an adjustment from believing that Allah couldn't hear at all. Now, okay, I can't continue to say that, so now I'm going to add on, yeah, Allah can hear, but he don't have ears, or he can hear, but he don't hear the way humans hear. He doesn't hear the way his creation hear. So this is what I'm explaining. Some of this stuff that they're adding in, and these things that they throwing in, this kalam, this rhetoric, and changing meanings, it started because he came in the game not believing any of it at all. No speech, no seeing. Allah can't see. So even when you go through his biography and look at what his beliefs is from his works, as he left the school, And then when he started to go against the Mu'tazila, and when he left the Mu'tazila, the Ash'ari school of thought was born. But that's why you see a lot of the Ash'aris mirror the Mu'tazila in a whole lot. It wasn't like he completely differed with them, but he started to go against them in saying that the Quran was created. Why was they saying that the Quran was created? Because they denied that Allah has speech. Right? So I won't go into that part. So when you go just back to the Rasul, Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Sahaba, you didn't see them doing this type of stuff. As in, like, if Allah said in the Quran that he hears, they didn't say, okay, alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal hears, but he doesn't have human ears. Or some of this extra stuff. So over the years, people just kept stacking the deck. Adding on, all the way till right now, where they saying stuff like, well, he hears without sound. So now sometimes when you see a person like a Ibn Taymiyyah and they're doing a refutation or they're writing a book, they start adding all these things in to counter, kind of like I had to do. I had to have like a slight disclaimer and say, okay, Allah can hear, but I'm not saying he has human ears. I had to put a disclaimer that I'm not referring to. So sometimes you have to know that's in there. But this is how it started to come. And then years and later, as this creed grew, people just kept adding more on and more on and more on and more on. So the origins of this concept came from the Mu'tazila due to them misunderstanding a Quran ayat. All of this grew from a mistake in the language. He broke off and left the Mu'tazila, and then he had particular Ash'ari beliefs. Then later on he ended up leaving that, and how they try to word it, you had what was referred to, they called it atheism, the Athari Creed or Athari Creed, which some people feel like is the birth of Salafiyah. But they can't call it the birth of Salafiyah because this was still people from the Salaf. The Athari Creed it's about Athar. If we don't have a narration for it, we stick it to the narration. We stick it to the hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu. We're sticking to what Allah said first in the Quran. Second, we're sticking to the way the Rasul acted up on it, the way the Rasul taught it and explained it and lived it, right? And then we're going to go with the athar of the people who learned directly from the Rasul. So that's what athari is. We stick to the narrations. And that's technically the Salafi minhaj is you're really supposed to stick to that. This is the method of doing it. So by him being Mu'tazila and the Athari is out, they're kind of fighting, the Mu'tazila and the Atharis. So when he leaves, he's in between. He come up with a system that's kind of in between them, but it's birthed off kalam, qiyas, rhetoric. That's why a lot of the stuff that's made it. But like I said, you have to understand he changed positions later in life. But because this was a school of thought, some of his earlier thoughts lived on till today. So some of the people is up on the kalam and rhetorics that he left off later on in his life when he passed away. You see what I'm saying? But due to them not studying his life, You have Asheris right now who don't even notice about them, and then some Asheris who do know it, but they deny it because they have a following with the Asheris. And sometimes being followed is more important than the truth. Just like, and I want to be careful because I'm not trying to put nothing on nobody. And this is me explaining to the brother who reached out to me that was Asheri, because he want to discuss this. Allah hears without sound, and Allah hears without eye. I mean, he sees, but he don't see like the creation and all this other stuff that people had to add in, because you have to understand, this is a person who was coming in that had the incorrect beliefs. Now, due to refutations and them losing debates where they felt like they was winning, but something got in their heart where it's like, hold on, maybe my believing isn't correct, so now I'm going to accept part of it, but I'm going to add in, okay, yeah, Allah can hear, but he don't have ears. Oh, well, wait a minute. So then they come back and say, okay, Allah don't have ears, but he's still hearing. If y'all saying that Allah can't hear because humans have ears, then what about Allah still hears our voices? I hear my voice. So due to y'all conversation, Allah can't hear voices because we can hear voices. Then they stack the deck and come back. Well, okay, yeah, Allah can hear and doesn't have ears, but because we can hear sounds, Allah can't hear sounds. Then when they lose that debate, then they stack something else on top of it. But it's all based off of kalam, rhetoric. Allah don't say this. The Rasul never said this. The Rasul didn't live it that way. He didn't teach it that way. The companions didn't do it as well. So it's not based off Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. There's no real dalil for it except for a person who started off with an incorrect understanding and didn't fully accept the understanding the way that it should be understood until they almost got to the point of their passing away, like later in life. But by this time they got students and this stuff done spread. So like just to show some of the debates. So like even in here in his life, it do show where he was saying how, okay, when he accept Allah can hear, okay, Allah can hear, Allah can see, right? But it's not seeing like the way a human sees. It's not hearing the way that a human hears. Now, like I said, this doesn't evolve to, at first, of course, there's no eyeballs, there's no ears, but nobody ever said that. Okay, so let me slow it down and get to this, to bring this point where we're going to use the Quran ayat, because sometimes, man, you got to know your history. Sometimes you need to know history in order to understand your future. See, right now, just like some of these individuals who clinged on to Salafiyah 10 years ago, I talked to some of them now and they still can't even explain it. You know what I'm saying? Who was the first person that said we should call ourselves Salafi? They don't know. Why did they say we should use the term Salafi? They'll go to somebody who came later on and said, well, we had to do it so that because some Sunnis believe this and some Sunni, like for instance, the Asheris, they're Sunni. So we're going to call ourselves Salafi to make sure we separated from them. So nobody get us confused as them. So in the earlier days, they didn't agree that you could call yourself a Sunni Muslim. I ain't no Sunni, I'm Salafi. But due to losing debates, now you'll hear them start to say in 2024 and 2025, starting around from when I started seeing it, around maybe 2023, you'll start seeing them say stuff like Sunni Salafi. Even all the way up to the point, just like I said, I didn't say his name in the video, but it was Hassan Somali, where in 2022, they had Hassan Somali, because you know all the stuff that was going on, him getting fired from Germantown. Well, we're going to say he took a leave of absence, right? When all that stuff went on and the shootings and all that. So he was overseas in the UK. Basically, some statements that he made about there's no scholars in the West, and you can't go to no masjid unless it's Salafi, this and that. They called him out on it, basically. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny because in the video, dude even said, if it wasn't for feasibility, for me trying to do something for the sake of Allah, I would have never came to this masjid to see y'all. I would have never came here to talk to y'all. Because he peeped what they did. They made him backtrack. Okay, I remember, you know, a time y'all was teaching there's no scholars in the West, but now all of y'all have Sheikh on your name. And, you know, he got slippery tongued it. But when they said the same thing about the Salafi masjid, what did he say? If it's a Sunni masjid, you could go to it and pray in it. But it was a time you couldn't say that you was Sunni because they had a misunderstanding of what Salafiyah is. And what I'm starting to see is it's the exact same. The Ashris is the new Salafis. They're just trying to do the exact same thing, but be kind about it. So after losing debates, then you can see where they're trying to kind of change and they're doing this and that. And like I say, some of the earlier students, and then some of the ones who may not have seen this video where Hassan Somali said this stuff in the UK, they're continuing on with his older teachings. But then when he back in the US, he's still teaching that early stuff. But, you know, not what he said when he was in the UK. So like I say, some of them losing debates, then they stack it up. So we're going to Allah can't see the way that a human sees, or Allah can't hear sounds, or he hear without sounds. Like just even imagine that, or the whole ear things. You could look at, it was a time in science when I was younger where they used to say fish didn't have ears. Have you ever seen fish ears on a fish? So they felt like fish couldn't hear. Right? They follow vibrations, the shaking in the waves. You know what I'm saying? And I remember as a kid fishing with my grandmother and my grandfather, and you know I'm a kid, so I'm making noise, I'm laughing, I'm running up along the lake yelling and singing songs and all that. And they used to be like, you know, be quiet, you gonna scare the fish away. And I was like, fish don't have ears. They can't hear. Because I'm listening to what they were saying in school. So I'm tripping off my grandparents now. But this was science. Then later on, when they started capturing dolphins and stuff and putting them in SeaWorld and all this other stuff, they started realizing, the dolphins can hear us. And they seen the way dolphins was making this noise, communicating with each other. Like, hold on, they communicate with each other. They can hear each other, but they don't have ears. So when people brought this type of logic to them, okay, what about this is part of Allah's creation? They hear without ears. And then at one point in time, they even was saying the same thing. They don't hear, they hear vibrations. You know what I'm saying? They hear vibrations. They're hearing without sound. So when people throw that at them, okay, now Allah's creation hearing without ears, they're hearing without sound. Do that mean Allah can't do that now? They're stuck. Where else do they go? How you going to pick and choose these things, but then still throw out the other ones? Because in order to accept those things, you got to keep in mind, this was coming from an incorrect understanding. And that's why I be telling people, when you start off with the incorrect understanding and you don't correct it, as you continue to go on through your studies, it's going to be tainted. So they have to throw certain things on there instead of just accepting it as it is, to say, okay, yeah, we're going to accept it, but Allah doesn't have ears. Y'all saying it, but y'all saying Allah has ears. Y'all saying that Allah can hear sounds because it's coming from a tainted understanding. So Allah can't see the way a human sees. This we know that Allah has absolutely no deficiencies. That's putting the deficiency on Allah. And I'm not going to use the big words, tawfiq and all these other things, because a lot of people don't understand those words. So I'm using it in a context, and tahrif and this things, changing the meanings, all that. I'm just going to explain it without using those Arabic terminologies. I broke down with Allah Azza wa Jal talking to Musa. So Allah can't see like a human. Allah can't see images, right? Allah also has speech, but it's not a sound. It's something that can't be heard, because they got to throw all this stuff on it just to accept it, because in the very beginning, from their Aqidah, was that Allah had none of it. So when you go to the Quran, and it says, even in the Arabic and in your good English translations, Musa, Allah called out to Musa. Musa heard Allah call out to him, but he didn't know who it was. Who's that calling my name? So if Allah's speech doesn't have sound, how did Musa go, who was that calling my name? He had to hear it. And then when Musa was like this, Allah said, it's me, Allah. But then, so that lets you know his speech does have sound. And whatever language Musa spoke, Allah spoke to him in that language, because he understood it. Alright? This is Quran al-Kareem. So even just that one ayat, it actually debunks that theory. But keep in mind, they have to add something on it, because this is something they didn't want to even accept in the beginning. So they got to keep stacking on it to make the way they see it more right than anybody else, but they're still more incorrect than ever. So you got to know the history, and then to see how far it done came, because now they say stuff that Ash'aris back in the day didn't say, but then leave off the fact that he left that and joined Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So you can see his name attached to Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but it's without the beliefs that these people have. He left that, but his earlier teachings lived on. You see what I'm saying? Just like how I explained in a couple of videos, sometimes scholars change positions. You may have an individual who graduated, did what he had to do. The scholars approved him of a scholar. He might have been in instead of a university route, he could have been in Yemen, or he could have been in Kuwait. Somewhere they had strong scholarship, and they could have started training him to be a scholar at 10 years old. So by the time he reached 25 years old, the scholars considered him to be a scholar. But then by the time he turned 50, he got experience, and he done lived some life. He may have changed his position that he had when he was 25. Just like me. It was a time in my life, in my earlier days when I became Muslim as a teenager, some of the stuff that I believed in, right now, I slap myself and be like, man, how did you even fall into that? But see, this is too difficult for people to accept, because they caught up in personality, and then you have to accept the fact that this stuff isn't based off Quran and Sunnah. It's based off of kalam with a little bit of wording from Quran and Sunnah sprinkled all over the top of it. So to the Allah seeing whether he could see like a human, and like now I had to throw in the disclaimer and say, I'm not saying that Allah see exactly like a human. See, this is how refutation, sometimes this type of wording fall into the books, because you have to cater to their misunderstanding, trying to get them to understand. But I'm going to say this. Allah Azza wa Jal told him, take your shoes off because of the valley that you are in. So that means what? Allah seen that he had shoes on. Allah seen the valley that he was in. Allah seen him walking in order to call out his name. Now I'm not saying, look back to how they had to do in refutations to cater to the misunderstanding that they had, trying to get them to understand. I got to throw in, I'm not saying he sees like a human, but Allah Azza wa Jal was able to see all of that, wasn't he? But y'all saying Allah sees without images, Allah sees nothing, but he's still seeing. And then that's when they start to do what? I'm not going to use the big Arabic words that everybody don't understand. Now they got to change the meaning. Oh, well, his seeing just means awareness. Okay, I am aware of the fact that I'm sitting in a chair. So just for the fact that I'm aware of that, does that mean that Allah don't have awareness? See the flaws in his theory? But the problem is, like I say, they catch people early on when they know nothing. Or they catch people that's confused and they feel like, you know what, this is the haq, but I hate these people. These Salafis turning me against my friends. Everybody is on a bid'ah except for them. They sitting up talking about Umar Suleiman fighting for the rights of gay people, but they marrying each other inside of the masjids. They done had a whole gay marriage inside of the masjid, but they not saying nothing about the brother who did that when he got caught. Why that brother not warned about and plastered all over Twitter and everywhere else? That's definitely worse than what y'all say Umar Suleiman did. And for the simple fact that he's y'all close companion, huh? The word y'all use, since he's y'all friend and y'all declare him that, don't that make y'all the same thing now? So people who getting tired of that stuff, they going over like, you know what? These people is nice. And you know, they explain a Quran ayat by me not understanding Arabic. It sound pretty good. And they're nice. And then they don't know nothing else because they took one sheet off to get another sheet put over them. Now listen, I'm going to give you this teaching, but listen. We the only ones that you should listen to. You better not listen to this one. You better not listen to that one. Because they do talk till I'm a drop with Kabir. People be sitting there like, that sounds kind of educated. What does that mean? It means anthropomorphic creeds of unknownness. You be like, oh, those some pretty big words. You sound educated. This is what happened, man. And then next thing you know, because them was some big words that sound so educated, now they can't wait to go bump into somebody that's not actually. And just walk right up on them. See, your problem is this. You doing anthropomorphic. You talking about Allah's face is human. When did I say that? Well, you a Salafi, you think I'm a deviant, but I just proved you're the real deviant. This is what's happening, y'all. But like I say, with the Quran ayat, and let me throw it in before somebody get all in my comments. And because like I say, this isn't the particular new brother who was in the comment and him and the other brother. This is a particular brother. his messages go to my spam thing. Wallahi, I just went ahead and had to hide him from the whole channel. Dude be having like, I'm talking about, it probably take 15 minutes to read it. And he feel like he a top notch actuary, but I could tell you just copy and pasting some stuff you don't even understand. But like I say, I'm not gonna say Allah sees like a human, but he seen Musa in the valley. He seen he had shoes on. He seen that he took his shoes off. But he can't see images. He can't see this. All this kalam. None of it comes from Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. It actually contradicts Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma based off a person who never wanted to believe none of it, but due to losing and this and that, them losing debates and all these other things, okay, yeah, the Quran do say that. So I'm going to accept that attribute, but let me change it around a little bit and say, well, you can't hear without sound. Because you have to understand, in the beginning, he did believe that the Quran was created. Why did he believe Quran was created? Because Allah can't have speech. Allah can't talk. Due to a misinterpretation of the Arabic language and the school of thought that he was in. Then when certain ayahs like this is brought to him, it's like, whoa. Okay, Allah do have some speech and he do talk. So that was one of the first issues he started to buck with the Mu'tazila on. Now the Quran ain't created. Allah does have speech. But some of these new guys, they still don't believe that the Quran is the word of Allah. They don't believe that the Quran is the book of Allah. Because if you say that the Quran is the speech of Allah or the book of Allah, things that Allah say in the Quran and things that the Rasul taught and the companions taught, if you say that this is the book of Allah, no, it ain't the book of Allah, because that's a possession. And in order for Allah to possess something, he would have to be in a place. All of this kalam, all of this rhetoric, all of this qiyas that comes from nowhere. It's made up. It's made up. But like I say, I understand people who argue it, but they don't. But due to this, some of the things they don't understand. We don't believe that Allah has body parts the same way that y'all do. The problem is y'all changing the meanings that nobody else done before y'all. Allah didn't. Y'all. They don't realize y'all basically saying Allah don't know what he talking about when he said what he said about himself. And like I said, I'm cool with them, with some of them. You know what I'm saying? And I done heard them say some stuff like, even when people say Allah does this in a manner that's befitting himself, they be like, that's even wrong, because in order for it to be a manner that befits himself, you got to put him in some type of a jizz, and you know, all these other stuff. In order to have mannerism, you got to have a human. So how can that be befitting? Because that's putting Allah in a box. I'd just be sitting back like, hey, I feel bad for y'all, really. y'all actually some good brothers. Y'all actually some good brothers. So then when we go to Surah 58, now look at this. Let's go to Surah 58. Right? And that's what I'm saying. You really don't even have to go past the Quran to shut down this stuff that they're talking about. We're going to touch Surah 58, the pleading woman. Look at how Surah 58, especially for the Arabic, but I ain't going to get the Arabic. Right? Because I don't want to make it longer than what it is, and a lot of people don't understand it anyway, right? So one English translation, indeed, this is what Allah is telling the Rasul, Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Indeed, I have heard the argument of the woman who is pleading with you. did he hear it? If he, and like they want to say, well, he hears without sound, right? He speaks without sound, but he's telling Rasulullah, I heard the woman argument who is pleading with you. How did the Rasul hear what he said if Allah's speech has no sound? That's when they say, oh, well, he just put it in his heart and knock it off, man. But look what else it say, right? I heard the woman pleading with you, O Prophet, concerning her husband, and I also heard her appealing to me. I heard her du'as. I heard her complaining to me. I heard her. Simple and plain. Allah has heard your exchange. So then to give a little tafsir, we'll skip that part, right? We'll skip that part. Well, no, let me read it a little bit because it give a little more context, right? So, a companion named Khala bint Thalaba had a disagreement with her husband, As ibn as-Samat, right? Well, Samit, who then told her that she was unlawful for him as the zahr, the back of his mother, which basically that meant like, you don't do nothing for me. Seeing you was like seeing my mother. Like you know, because I want to put it in some context, but I don't want people who can't really understand or comprehend to make this like perversion. Let's say somebody might see, I'm gonna use my mom so nobody else get offended. It might be a man who see my mom and be like, ooh, she thick, ooh, she got this, she got that, but he see her in her clothes. But when I see my mom, I see nothing. But I might see another woman who may be built exactly like my mom, not like I look, of course, let me make it clear, who may be built better or may be built less or this and that, but I might see her and be like, oh, okay. But when you see your mother, or when you see your grandmother, when you see your sisters, this don't happen unless something wrong with you and you pervert it, where some people who end up having incest and things like that. But the fitra inside of us, if it's not corrupted by shaitan and other things, you don't see your mother in that type of light. So back in the way, this was kind of a way of people divorce. It was almost like a form of a divorce. You know, when you do nothing for me. Looking at you is like looking at my mother. So that's what it means. You know what I'm saying? So like, and it's like you unlawful for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel nothing for you. So the man had told her that, right? And back, like I say, this statement had been considered to be a form of divorce in Arabia. Khala came to the Prophet to ask for his opinion. He told her that he had not received any revelation in this regard, and that based on tradition, she was divorced. This was the custom of the people. Nothing had been revealed. So like, this is something they was doing before Allah Azza wa Jal sent something down about how it goes. Okay? So like he said, so she was divorced. She argued that she and her husband had children together who would suffer if their parents were separated. Then she started to plead to Allah Azza wa Jal, right? As the Rasul repeated the same answer. Eventually, this Medini surah was revealed in response to her pleas, thereby abolishing this ancient practice. Then another translation without all of that. Indeed, Allah has heard the statement of the woman that disputed with you concerning her husband and complains to Allah, and Allah hears the argument between you both. Verily, Allah is all hearing and all seeing. And the other translation put that at the end too. I just left that off. If Allah says he's all hearing, the part in all seeing, the part where if you want to say Allah doesn't see like a human or doesn't see or hear like a human, you put the deficiency on us, not him. We can hear the blood flowing through a well at the same time as as a blood flowing through a well deep in the waters of Alaska, and at the exact same time hearing an ant and a beetle crawl on the ground in the darkest, deepest depths of the forest in South Africa. So you don't put the deficiency on Allah, you put the deficiency on us. They do it in reverse. They put the superiority on us and put the deficiency on Allah. And don't even know it. And they don't even know it. And now they getting to the point that if you agree with what Allah says, if you agree with what the Rasul Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught, you're a mushrik. That's shirk to them. Based off of what though? Not based off of Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. Based off of kalam. You put the deficiency on the creation, not on Allah. But because because of somebody not being able to understand Kufuwan. Kufuwan Ahad. And then a person who came up on that theology, and then as he grew in life and hearing other people's perspective, i.e. the Atheres was putting belt on him. Okay? The Atheres was putting belt on him, kid. And then he changed his position. As he grew more on in life towards the end of his life, he changed the position on a lot of this stuff and left that. And there's all type of books and dalils out there to prove it. Not only do it speak about it in the mountains of knowledge, it spoke about it in Akida Wasatiyah. But they slander Ibn Taymiyyah. You know, all this other stuff because some of the newer ones do it. You have Asheris like Imam Nawawi and them. They didn't say that type of stuff about Ibn Taymiyyah, but this is the funny thing. You talk about, like I say, y'all claim to be these students of fiqh of Imam Malik. Imam Malik, a lot of stuff that Ibn Taymiyyah believed and said, Imam Malik said the same thing. So what's the difference between them? One of them, y'all need their name to make people think that y'all are extremely superior in fiqh. In fiqh in what type of way? When it comes to how to wipe your face in wudu, but not in the way that he understood the deen though? Let's be real. Let's be real. So, for the brother who reached out to me who don't even really know nothing about that stuff, go look at the history, kid. As a matter of fact, let me try something, man. I pulled up his name on the internet. They got something about him on Wikipedia. Let's take a look at it. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, right, was a Muslim theologian known for being the eponymous founder of the Ash'ari school. Basically, like, it's named after him, or he named it. Like some of the belief system that's in it could have been around, but nobody just had a name for the school of the people who believed it. So it's named after him. Right? So let's see what else they got on him. Al-Ash'ari was notable for taking an intermediate position between the two diametrically opposed schools of Islamic theology prevalent at the time. Atheism, the Atheres, who was putting belt on people. and they set the precedence of we sticking to the text. If it ain't nothing, if it ain't an ayat in the Quran, and if it ain't no hadith authentic Hassan about it, and then if it ain't no statements from the companions, and then ijma after that, we rejecting it. That's the Athari Creed, which now we ain't gonna go into it. And Mutazilism or Mutazilism. Some people say Mutazila, some say Mutazils, right? So these was the two prevalent schools of thought. Not madhabs though, right? He primarily opposed the Mutazila theologians on Allah's eternal attributes and the Quran createdness. So it's showing where he started to buck on them. And on the other hand, the Hanbalis and the traditionalists, usually when they say traditionalists, people who follow traditional Islam, kind of like you hear certain people from an African American descent, how they try to buck old Islam and say that they instead of saying traditional, they'll say orthodox. They follow orthodox Islam. We don't follow orthodox Islam. That's for them Arabs. But anyway, so on the other hand, the Hanbalis and the traditionalists were opposed to the use of philosophy or speculative theology and condemned any theological debate altogether. So this is qiyas the wrong way. And this is what the concept that they're doing is coming up from their own understanding that doesn't even attach to anything from the Quran and Sunnah except for a word or two. Al-Ash'ari established a middle way between the doctrines of the aforementioned schools based both on theological rationalism, kalam. Like I said, it's based off of kalam, just speech, rhetoric. Not Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. His school eventually became the predominant school of theological thought within Sunni Islam in his region. In his region, not worldwide. By contrast, Shia Muslims do not accept his theological beliefs. So, but although some of the stuff with the Maturidi's and them clicking up with them, they have a little bit of Sufi Shiism, Aqidah type stuff in there, although the Shiites don't accept the Ash'aris. As in, let me continue. Right? Look, as his works also involve refuting Shia Islam, right? So he refuted them. Let's look at some of his views. They got biography. Look at his views, right? After leaving the Mutazila school and joining the side of the traditionalist theologians, Al-Ash'ari formulated the theology of Sunni Islam through kalam and the usage of Quran and Sunnah. So like I said, they got a little bit of the word from Quran and Sunnah sprinkled on it. Yeah, okay, yeah, Allah can hear, but it ain't like a human. Allah can see, but it ain't like a human. So they're using the Quran, Sunnah. Yeah, Allah can hear, he can. Because keep in mind, when he was with the Mutazila, he didn't believe this. So as it continue on, right, following the footsteps of Ibn Qulab and confirming the methodologies of other traditionalists such as Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal a century earlier. So, like I said, it's showing later on in life he started to conform in beliefs to exactly how Ibn Hanbal believed. This is just on Wikipedia. The most famous of these are Abul Hasan al-Bahli, and name a couple of them, right? Thus, all Ash'ari schools became together with the Maturidi's. They clicked up. So the main school reflecting the beliefs of the Sunnah, he is also known to have directly taught a Sufi. Alright? Ibn Kafif, right? In line with the Sunni traditions, Al-Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, Al-Ash'ari held the view that a Muslim should not be considered an unbeliever on account of sin, even if it was an enormity such as drinking wine or theft. This is opposed to the position of the Khawarij. Let me move on. Let's see if there's something else in here. Ash'ari spent much of his work opposing the views of the Mu'tazila school, which he came from. In particular, he rebutted them for believing that the Quran was created and that deeds are done by people of their own accord through their direct creation of them. He also rebutted the Mu'tazila school for denying that Allah can hear, see, and has speech. Al-Ash'ari confirmed all these attributes, stating that they are different from the hearing, seeing, and speech of the creation. Just like I said. But like I said, I done read from the biography. This is just some of the stuff that's on here. But keep in mind, just like right now where you see some of the Salafis who left the Salafi minhaj of what they knew of it, and now they done became Ash'ari. What are they doing now? Now they're attacking them. This is similar to when he was a Mu'tazila. Now because keep in mind, when he was with the Mu'tazila, this is his belief system. Now the Atharis get the putting that belt on him. He like, wait a minute, man. Some of this don't make sense, but this is the only thing I ever heard. This is the only thing that I've been taught. So now he's starting to change. So now he's starting to accept seeing, hearing, and speech. But he got to put that twist on it. And like I said, so that's why I say I'm not saying that Allah can see like humans. I'm not saying that Allah hears like humans. Because I got to put that on there, just like as you will see in certain reputations, people put that on to cater to the misunderstanding that they have, just to try to get them to understand. But Allah definitely heard what was going on. And like I say, I know from Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, you don't put the deficiency on Allah. You put the deficient on a human. Allah can definitely hear like us. We can't hear like Allah. Allah can definitely see like us. We can't see like Allah. You understand? You don't put the deficiency on Allah. Allah gave us hearing. Allah gave us seeing. And I'm pointing this out because Allah says in the Quran, if Allah want to, He can take away your seeing and hearing. You listen to their theology. I know what seeing is. I know what hearing is. Therefore, Allah don't even know what seeing and hearing even is. Because we know what it is. It don't make any sense. And like I said, when they start trying to change the meanings, Arabic is in Fusha. When they start wanting to try to change the meanings, it don't even fit in the Fusha Arabic language. So they have to do it in English. And see, one thing, and I'm going to tell y'all this, and I'm going to keep it 100. A lot of these people who have a little bit of Arabic language, and they may possibly have a lot of conversational Arabic, but they can't bust that Quran open and read it from beginning to end with the proper understanding. These are just facts. I'm just keeping it 100 with y'all. I can't even do it. And the problem is, some of these individuals who's trying to teach y'all this kalam, because they really haven't read the whole Quran in Arabic would understand it. If they did, even in English, it give y'all these understanding in English. So what they do, they attack the Quran. The Salafis, they attack the clear Quran. They attack some of these other ones that I'm not even going to name. Then the Ash'aris, they're going to attack the Noble Quran. You understand? And based off of the English. Because they can't attack the Arabic because they don't really know what's to it. But the deficiency in the understanding, the problem is they don't understand. It isn't the book that's making the mistake, it's them. So like I said, even when you read the pleading woman, and there's a beautiful hadith that go with it, where Aisha said she was amazed by it because the argument with the Rasul and the woman was happening in their home. Right? And then in the Athar, Aisha said when that ayat was revealed, basically she was amazed by it because she said, I was in the same house. I was in the next room. I could barely hear what they was talking about. Like I can hear some words being said, but I didn't know what was said. And then Allah said he heard it. He was listening to it. So even from that Athar, when she said I could barely hear it, I just heard words, but I didn't know what the conversation was about, which is showing what? When she say, and I was amazed that Allah heard it, what does that mean? That Allah heard it. Just like he said in the Quran. But based off of y'all misunderstanding where this kalam started from, based off of the misunderstanding of a word, just like my sheikh told me, man, when you look at the deviant sects and some of these hadiths and different things that have mistakes in them, every last one of them started from a mistake in the Arabic language. Either a mistranslation of the Arabic or them not being able to fully understand the Arabic. But it's both it's still from a mistake in the language. But anyway, man, let me get on ahead and go and do what I got to do, man. And the pleading woman. So, for the brother who reached out to me, I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to change you or convert you. I'm not trying to put you down. Go look at the history, man. Step outside of what you're being told. You know what I'm saying? Make dua. And I want to throw this in. I got to throw this in. And I want to try to do this in a nice way, because it's funny to me. So it's going to come off like I'm being sarcastic or condescending. These individuals go to people's grave. Yes, asheries. I'm not going to say all of them do it, but a lot. I know a lot. To be honest, I don't know an ashery that don't do it. But I haven't spoke to every last ashery. They go to the graves and make dua to people in the grave. The Mu'tazila, some Sufis. Now listen to this. This is a person that's in the grave, been in the grave 1,000 years. And I'm gonna give y'all one example. They go to like Imam Bukhari grave. I even watched the new saviors of the black Muslim community from the Asheries. I'm just going to say the name of the Black Imam Round Table. And they had these individuals. Like I said, I go check them out. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to see. I ain't going to say nothing. But they had these individuals on that was talking about how they went to Imam Bukhari grave. And they was talking about how they traveled to these different graves of these known people. And he was sitting up talking about how he made this dua to Imam Bukhari and all this other stuff. But this is my point right here. I ain't gonna go too much into their little stuff. But they go to the graves of Imam Bukhari was that. He was that guy. But I'm not finna go to his grave and make dua for him to make me like him. Listen, y'all will go to the grave of Imam Bukhari and make a dua. If Imam Bukhari was able to answer duas or get somebody else dua accepted, these type of duas, why these people in the grave won't make dua for Allah to take them out of the grave if they can answer your du'as or get them answered? I tell you what, for like any of them, y'all who going to these graves making dua to these people, you know, y'all saying if anybody wouldn't be able to hear no sounds, this, that, and the third, y'all, these people can hear better than Allah, and they dead in the grave. You know what I'm saying? Not saying, you know, like I say, I ain't finna keep putting no disclaimers on it, but let's just keep it doggy. And it's perhaps that y'all think because y'all talking and it has sound, Allah can't hear it because Allah can only hear nothing. Listen. Hearing without sounds. So basically, if I'm just doing this right here, they say that's how Allah hears. Because if it has a sound, Allah can't hear it. Do that make any sense, y'all? If it has a sound, Allah can't hear it because Allah only hears without sound. So they basically try to make like it's an internal thing, right? Allah just hear it internally. So then if Allah hear it internally, that means he has an internal. How do you have an internal? Just using their logic. How do he have y'all, you could say the same thing to them. Y'all giving Allah a jizz. In order for him to have an internal, that means he has an external. You a mujazim. Why that don't make you a mujazim? And all these other little terminologies that they try to say. Well, Allah hears it internally. Oh, so you saying Allah has an external? Come on, man. When you really sit down on it, it don't make no sense. So they had to keep stacking the deck and changing it and rearranging it and keep adding different kalam and rhetoric so it could fit their narrative. But taking it the way Allah said it, taking it the way the Rasul lived it and practiced it, take it from the people who learned directly from the Rasul, all that is a problem. You have to change all of that. Because they understand Islam, they understand Quran and Sunnah better than Allah, the Rasul, and the people that the Rasul taught directly. It don't make no sense. Especially knowing that the individual, the person who came up with the Ash'ari school of thought, or the Ash'ari school of thought is named after him, started off from one belief, then he changed to a different one. And then later in life, changed from that. Why don't y'all take a page out of his book and grow up out of it too? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.